What's up, welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Jurassic World Rebirth, the latest Jurassic film from Universal. Of course, this film was fast-tracked in a high-profile manner right after the conclusion of the original Jurassic World trilogy starring Chris Pratt. The previous film, Dominion, came out back in 2022, so we're just a quick 3 years out with this latest, reboot and reiteration of this now storied franchise. And, at one point, David Leitch was attached to direct, and ended up settling on Gareth Edwards with a script from David Koepp, who, of course, is so prolific these days, and also, of course, was the screenwriter for Jurassic Park and The Lost World, the first Jurassic sequel. So you have all those component parts, and this is, of course, a high priority franchise for Universal. It's massive grossing franchise, especially with Fast and Furious on its way out. Jurassic, they hope, can continue to be the big, success and megaplex, grosser for the studio. And as a result, they get a lot of talented people to join the film. You have Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali joining in, 2 Oscar winners as your 2 stars. Also Jonathan Bailey right there coming off of Wicked. Jurassic World Rebirth is a solid return to the franchise. This is a film that's largely playing the hits and sticking to the familiar, but also presenting some new ways to go about those things. We're certainly not as expansive and as lore-driven as Jurassic World Dominion, and frankly, I love the focus of this film a lot more. Are we playing a lot of hits? Are there some familiar beats throughout this film? Of course there are, but it was shot on film. It looks tremendous. The CGI is outstanding, and there's some good set pieces here. And even if you're maybe not as invested in the story or the characters, I think the spectacle of Jurassic is still working with this movie. And I think that's kind of been the push-pull with all of this, right? Because if you think about how Jurassic World went, of course, rebooting in 2015, starring Chris Pratt, and becoming a massive movie, one of the highest grossing films of all time. It's currently sitting at number 10 all time. I think when it came out, it was more like 5 or 6 or something like that, right? 200 plus million opening weekend, massive movie, right? And the original Jurassic World rips. I think it's very good. And it's a big redux of the first Jurassic Park, very intentionally. It's very familiar, very, very Force Awakens coded in terms of what it's trying to convey. And then from there, you had Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, which really changed things up and try and do new things with the franchise. And I don't really like those movies too much. I think Dominion at least tried to expand like the lore of the world of Jurassic Park and Jurassic World to very uneven success, to say the least. So those are movies that performed, although Dominion scraped its way to $1 billion, off the backs of a big China gross, right? So the franchise has grossed less and less in the world iterations. And now the question is, can Rebirth match Dominion's total? Will it be less? Will it be under $1 billion, right? I think it probably can, but I don't know if we're going to get back to Fallen Kingdom levels, let alone, Jurassic World 1 levels. So what does the audience really want? Do they want something familiar and warm and maybe safe, the way the first Jurassic World went, the way Jurassic World Rebirth is in many respects, familiar to the first film? Is that what the audience wants? Or do they want things that are new and different? Because Dominion and Fallen Kingdom was that. Maybe the answer is you want something better that's also new and different, right? You want something better than Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. Maybe that's the answer. I think it depends who you ask, right? And I think for me, maybe I'm coming at Jurassic World Rebirth with a low bar, coming off Fallen Kingdom, which I just didn't really like at all, and Dominion, which I thought was okay at best. And I'm like, oh wow, this is I think Rebirth is pretty tight. It's giving us some cool new set pieces, but also not really breaking the mold at all. And that was enough for me. I was pretty entertained. But you look at the cinema score on this movie, it's only a B. It's the second lowest grade for the whole franchise. So I'm very curious how this film legs out and performs, and where is the audience really with this, because they're going to keep making them, right? The movies are just way too successful. And frankly, even if these movies tick down into next thing you know, they're $800-900 million grossers, they'll still find a way to make these movies. Maybe they'll make them a little cheaper. These movies are not going to go away for Universal. So it's really a question of what is the direction that they want. And I think Rebirth, again, I like the I like the framing of it, right? Like we're like 5 years post Dominion. Everything Jurassic World introduced with 2 sequels where their dinosaurs are everywhere. They're all around the world. We've broken containment. They're like part of society, right? Fast forward 5 years and many of them are dying off because like they can't handle most of the non-tropical climates in the world. And also the audience interest, the public interest out in the world, the spectacle of dinosaurs back to life has waned a lot. And it's pretty interesting. And I like that, introduction. I think the early scene, the beginning of the movie, where there's a Brachiosaurus, a sauropod of some kind that's like broken out of its enclosure in New York City, one of the last remaining dinosaurs in North America. But that was pretty cool, like fun little lore, right? And I think Dominion was like kind of like lore overload, but like I do enjoy some of that stuff. And then you enter Rupert Friend's big pharma guy. They want to study. They want to develop some kind of heart drug based on the getting live tissue samples of the biggest dinosaurs out there, who thus had the biggest hearts. I think it's great framing for a movie like this. Enter Scarlett Johansson's veteran mercenary characters, spec ops type, lioness type. It works, right? And they link up with Mahershala Ali, someone ScarJo has met before. He's a ship captain. It's great. I think I like all of that. And you're not like, there's no like misconceived notions about like what you're watching. Like, that this is a, profit driven guy leading the mission. He's like the bad guy the whole time. You probably have a feeling that Scarlett, despite being a merc, despite literally talking about losing a friend in Yemen of all places, right? Like that she's probably going to like turn to the light a little bit when given the opportunity, right? And they meet up with, the scientist who they need for his expertise, played by Jonathan Bailey of Wicked fame. And it's like, okay, I'm really vibing with it, right? And like, I think the presentation of the plot, where they have to go to these three specific dinosaurs out on another island in the tropics, one that was an R&D location for the original park, separate island though. And they have to get samples from a mosasaur out in the water, a titanosaur, the biggest sauropod, as well as the Quetzalcoatl, the really big pterosaur, Quetzalcoatlus. Shout out the Aztecs for that name. And I think that was cool, right? And of course, the movie actually starts, like in media res, like 20 years in the past, where we spend time at that R&D island. And they're actually doing experiments and trying to crossbreed new types of dinosaurs. And unsurprisingly, some mutants get made, and they break containment, and the island gets kind of abandoned. And it's like, okay, again, familiar premise, something we've seen before, but I think it works. Like, yeah, like every beat that's happening. They're gonna march their way to that abandoned base. They're gonna see that really big mutant dinosaur that fucks all the shit up in the flashback, and they do a nice job of hiding his appearance. Very familiar to how Gareth Edwards presented Godzilla in 2014 in the original New Godzilla movie, where you hide him and use his scale as a way to inspire fear without showing everything until the end. I enjoyed all that touch, right? I think Gareth Edwards is a nice director for something like this, right? It's not his script, but he can handle scale, he can handle spectacle, as proven with the work he did with Rogue One. We know he didn't do everything. Godzilla 2014, and of course The Creator, which I think visually and spectacle-wise was a complete knockout. So I'm liking all the premise, and I think also like the mosasaur, right? Like we spent time with one of those in Jurassic World, the first one. It's kind of like a secondary antagonist, not the main focus of much of the story. But we haven't had a lot of like aquatic storytelling with Jurassic World at all. And I actually really like that about Rebirth, right? Like, spend all this time at sea with the mosasaur, and like the Spinosauruses show up later, and like his call back to Jurassic Park 3, but that was a Spinosaur on land. And, like, I thought all that was really, really cool. Later on, you get the river chase with the T-Rex or the Allosaurus, whatever that was, versus the family in the life raft. I like the aquatic stuff because it was just kind of a new spin on the spectacles we know. Some fun callbacks. You get the the venom spitter guy with the big fins around his neck, callback to the first movie. We see seemingly some raptors about to, axe the boyfriend before they get stomped down by some kind of pterosaur. I thought that was fun, bait and switch there. And yeah, I think the movie's like really, really like ripping. And then once it kind of like gets to its confluence, which is the end where they all meet up at the base again, we see the mutant stuff really for the first time. I think that's where the movie kind of makes a big shift, because beforehand, like the stuff at sea, the stuff, like the T-Rex on the river, the stuff in the jungle, I really liked that kind of stuff because it felt like almost like a naturalized thing. Like you're with these dinosaurs like out in their habitat and watching them like interact with prey as they would have millions of years ago, right? Like it wasn't in the park framing at all, and I thought that was kind of fresh, at least a little bit. And yeah, I think there's still like a kind of magic to watching like human character stumble upon a massive sauropod in a field, right? Again, it's a callback. It's a huge callback, but I think it's an effective one. And those Titanosaurus kind of cozying up together, I think it really worked. Now, I think that scene is probably the least impressive visually because it was like that whole valley was all CGI. And that wasn't like a location that they were really filming in, seemingly. So that was one where I kind of brushed up against the visuals just a little bit. But everything else, I think, looks really good because they shot on film, they shot on location, and the CGI like blends in really well. Obviously, the dinosaurs, or the moving dinosaurs for the most part, are completely CGI. I think a lot of the stuff like the carcasses and stuff are actually like physical things they made for the set. But I think visually, like it looks really, really good. Then once you get to the end, though, like I think that's where you can brush up just a little bit because there's some more callbacks, right? You have the kind of mutant, like the mutant pterosaur looking dudes. They kind of look like the fell beasts from Lord of the Rings that the Nazgul fly on, to be honest. You have a pretty overt callback to the raptor stalking in the kitchen in the first Jurassic Park. This time it's in like a gas station, convenience store area. And then you have Mahershala very much invoking Jeff Goldblum using a flare to, move the mutant T-Rex amalgamation away. And I think they do a really good job with the fake out there because I really thought he was gonna be dead. But I think he probably seemingly survives because the flare runs out and it just loses track of him because it's tracked to the light. That was my assumption. But I thought it would have been pretty ballsy if they killed Mahershala Ali. I would have liked more Mahershala. I think he's very warm in his presence, but he doesn't have as much to do as Jonathan Bailey or Scarlett does. I think Scarlett's very capable in this role, very similar to Chris Pratt's, Owen Grady character, to be honest. But I think she's pretty good here. And yeah, I think Rupert Friend does a great job as the pharma bro. He's winning as a malcontent, to say the least. Ed Skrein, small role as someone on Mahershala's crew. I think in general the movie doesn't make any effort to hide characters that are due to be eaten by a dinosaur. Like it's pretty obvious which ones are going to make it and which ones aren't in terms of whether they're characterized or not. And I think that's fine. Again, like you're not watching this to be surprised. You're watching this to be entertained. I think a lot of that dinosaur spectacle, even the familiar stuff, it's still fun to watch because I think it's still well made with this movie. So, again, to criticize my own take, like a lot of couching, a lot of caveats, low bar. I'm acknowledging all of that. But I'm also saying that I had a pretty good time with it. And I think the aquatic stuff was pretty welcome because it was just kind of new. So I hope the movie does well, just because I know they're going to keep making these. So I hope the movie does well and they can do a new spin. And, I think it's very open-ended where this one could go, right? But I liked the relative groundedness of this one once again. More or less one location plus the sea. Only a handful of characters. We're not like globe-trotting the way Jurassic World ended up. And I think that's... maybe you can work your way back up to the globetrotting again if you do it with a bit more sophistication. I don't really have a preference on where it goes. I just hope it continues to have some level of quality. So I'm very curious how this movie performs, given that cinema score. Will it be able to surpass Dominion's gross or not? Sans Russia gross and everything. We'll see. Let me know, though, what'd you think of Jurassic World Rebirth? Are you positive on like me? Did you not like it because of its rehash nature? Something else? Let me know. And for more movie reviews, subscribe. I'll see you next time.